And good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Saturday morning, I am recording. On Saturdays, we like to do a little thing where I pull a toy out of the toy box and I draw it and I talk about it. We actually do that every day. Every day at 5:30, I'm going to spritz these watercolors, make sure they're nice and juicy for later on. I'm going to make sure they're moist so that when it comes time to use them, I can just tap them instead of scrubbing into them. But as I was saying, on every day at 5:30 in the morning, we do a little thing here where we like to pull a random object out of the random object randomogrifier, if you will, and we draw it. Today's random object is Husky, and so that is what we're drawing today. We're going to draw a Husky and talk about Huskies and share a few life insights. My wife and kids are out of town. They left me. My wife and kids left me for the week to go see my in-laws, which is nice. They need to do that, but they left me all alone. So if there's any gingers out there that need comfort for the week, we can do that. You just have to be able to leave by Friday, maybe sooner. But that said, I thought last night, I would just stay up and I'd watch all the shows that I wanted to watch. I was like a little kid last night. I was going to stay up and watch all the shows I wanted to watch. And I was going to, all the shows that I've been wanting to watch but couldn't watch because I didn't have control of the television. I was going to run around the house and turn all the lights on, run with scissors, all the stuff you dream about doing when you have the house to yourself. And ended up going to bed about 9:30. Because it turns out all the stuff I want to do as an adult or all the stuff that you you complain about as a child, right? You're gonna have to go to bed early and stay home. Oh no, no. So yeah, last night was a really exciting night for me. But I did get to come out here and research Huskies. Oh, my mom says she loves the artwork in the top left corner. That artwork in the top left corner is by my adopted granddaughter, Mac and Cheese. My oldest daughter and her boyfriend have come down to Texas to go to the ocean side this weekend, and his daughter brought her sketchbook. And so she wanted to participate. She didn't manage to get up in time to participate with me yesterday, but she did leave artwork for me. Specifically, she knew I was doing a Husky, so she left the artwork for me. Yeah, that foot was a little too far back. Now I've got too many stray lines to see what I'm doing. Sorry. So, mankind domesticated dogs about 30,000 years ago. There's evidence of dogs living with mankind in caves and in uh, domiciles, if you will, because it's not always caves. Sometimes it's a tent. Sometimes it's a modified structure. There's all kinds of ways that we survived the ages there. But we domesticated dogs some 30,000 years ago. Domesticated wolves, actually. And the struggle that I had with all the studies, it always like, yeah, man, domesticated wolves 30,000 years ago. Everybody was like, yeah. They fit together. The dogs, kept the children warm at night and protected the family and blah blah blah. I'm like, no, that's wolf. When the wolf shows up, the wolf's intention is to eat the baby. You're not fooling anybody. We've all read Little Red Riding Hood. That wolf's intention was to eat the baby. How are you going to go from the wolves are circling the clan in the cold to eat the babies? How do you get from that to here? Let's let little faggot curl up with Balto here to stay warm. And I mean, the answer is there's no real answer. Of course, you're never going to find an answer. It's all conjecture because nobody was obviously writing anything down 30,000 years ago. But they think, like cats, that the wolves domesticated themselves. And this is the major difference when I talk about pets and wild animals. This is the major difference between domestication of wild pets like the blue tang we talked about the other day versus a dog and a cat, or horse and sheep and cows. These things basically domesticated themselves. They showed up to take what we had to offer. So we have an encampment. We're stewing some seal fat. That creates quite the smell. Attracts wolves from far and wide. Got some extra whale fat or seal fat laying around. Throw a couple of scraps over to them. And so they start coming around for the scraps. And can you imagine? I can imagine my dad. If my dad had caught me feeding the wolves out in the plains, my dad would have been like, "Don't feed the wolves. You'll make them come by more. You'll make them. We're trying to keep rid of them, and you're feeding them." I can imagine the elders in the tribe saying, "Don't do that. You'll make them dependent on us, and they'll keep coming around." Some young hippie saying, "No, they're hungry too. Give them the young ones." But Jean L. wrote Planet of the Cave Bear, and she addressed it very well. They found puppies. They had killed the mother, the adults, because the adults were doing exactly what I said. They were trying to eat the babies, and so they had killed the mother and discovered that there were babies. That's horrible. I can't believe that face is going to look like that. I'm going to have to try to figure out how to clean that up. Anyway, and then the wolves' first few weeks imprint, and it helps that they're pack animals, and they needed a new pack, so they imprinted on the character Ayala in the books. And that makes a lot of sense. And that truly makes a lot of sense, because as puppies they wouldn't have been as aggressive. They wouldn't have been as dangerous, but they still would have been wolves, and they still would have been uh, quite dangerous as they got older. As people discover when they try to tame wild wolves, you see this all the time. Somebody will find a wild wolf and they'll try to raise it, and the thing will get 6, 7, 8 months old, and all of a sudden you realize they're wolves. They're not dogs. They're not domesticated towards pleasing the pack. They're domesticated towards independence. Their whole thing is independence and survival and curiosity, and your pleasure is not anything they even consider. Not anything they're even curious about. So when you're snapping at them for jumping up and down on the furniture, or tearing the paintings off the wall, or eating your Christmas tree, or your small children, they don't care. They don't care that you're mad. You're just another squeaky wolf. And they're rambunctious, and they're full of energy, and they are wolves. They're not domesticated. So, going back 30,000 years ago, they are wolves. How do you turn that into something that doesn't eat the kids? But I can tell you that there's an instinct that kicks in there when an animal threatens your kid, where you will, without abandon, gloriously throw that animal out of the way so that it cannot hurt your kid. I have experienced this. My father has experienced this. when the animal barked or nipped at one of us, or when the animal barked or nipped at one of my kids, didn't even hesitate. No, get that animal away from my kid. And so in their time, if the wolf threatened your kid, that wolf is not part of the pack. Doesn't mean you don't try again, because the rest of these wolves haven't done anything, but this one's gone. And 30,000 years of that, you get dogs. Hang on a second, I got to get this shadow around here without burning up any of the highlights that I've got in place. There we go. That's close. Not quite what I intended, but close. All right. So, 30,000 years and you end up with a dog sleeping on the bed. That's exactly right. And here's the kicker about these things. These Huskies, when they were domesticated, the dogs had been domesticated for roughly, at the time, had already been domesticated for roughly 20,000 years. But Huskies are only about a 10,000-year-old breed. And they're not exactly 10,000 years old, but they're close to it, because the people that the Chukchi people in Siberia that bred them specifically for endurance in running long distances. They bred them specifically for a super efficient metabolism, so that they could survive on as little food as possible. They could run long distances, running over 100 miles without getting tired. They bred them specifically for all these traits. But the single most important thing that they bred them for was to keep their children warm at night. Because these things have a big fluffy tail. When they lay down in minus 70-degree weather, they will lay down and they will pull their tail around their face and keep their face warm. And they will do the same thing for the babies. And so that is one of the things that they were bred for, was to curl up in your bed. I'm not going to try to hit every one of these hairs. I just want to make sure that the pattern is there. I'm going to be really loose with this. And you have to be careful here, because you don't want it to look like there's black hairs on their legs, because there's not. But there are some darker shadows from some coarser hair. They have the 2 layers of fur. They have the coarse hair on the top, and then they have the fluffy hair underneath. And I know this from firsthand experience, because I have a Husky German Shepherd mixed dog named Kitty, that she's been the butter thieving dog of our household for it seems like 30,000 years. You can't leave butter on the table, because she will eat it. You can't leave anything laying out, because she will eat it. But she is a fantastic dog, especially on a cold night, when she will curl up on the bed with me and keep my feet warm. She doesn't do it as much anymore, because she can't get up and down off the bed. She's an old dog. And she doesn't like for me to pick her up. It hurts her. So I don't do that either. But she is an old dog. But she sheds like you would not believe. Like you would not believe she sheds. I could sweep this house. And when I was done sweeping, before I was done sweeping, where I started sweeping would already have dog fur in it again. She is my dog, that's for sure. We went and got that dog from the shelter. It was a kill shelter up in Blackwell, Oklahoma. My wife found her on the internet and said, "We got to have this dog. Go get this dog. They're going to kill her. They're going to kill her." And it was a 6-week-old puppy. Her and her brother were 6-week-old puppies that had been born feral in a kill shelter in Blackwell, Oklahoma, which at the time was 4 hours away from where we lived. And so during Christmas break, I went and got this dog. And her brother had already been adopted. They opened the shelter for me on a Sunday to adopt this dog out for me. I called him, told him I was coming the day before, and he said, "Yeah, we can do that for you. Just let me know when you get here." And so the guy, to his credit, showed up on a Sunday to open the shelter for me, and we did the paperwork, and he adopted this dog out to me. And I stopped at a gas station on the way home, and I had a kennel for her to put her in the truck to carry her home. She was supposed to be inside this kennel, but she didn't like it, so I didn't make her stay in the kennel, and she was shivering. So we stopped at the gas station, and I got her, while I was getting gas, I got her a blanket. They had these little pink and black fuzzy blankets. And so I got her a blanket, and I wrapped her in a little pink. Keep in mind, I didn't want this dog. got her a little pink and fluffy blanket, and I wrapped her up in it. And it wasn't very long before she had she had waddled with her little pink and black blanket up into my lap while I was driving. And my wife got the dog when I got home with it. My wife took the dog, and the dog was sickly because it was too young to have been weaned. It was a sickly dog. And my wife nursed it. She gave it eggs and chicken. She spent a lot of time nursing this dog back to health, cleaning up after it being sick and the whole works. And as soon as the dog got well, the dog ran over to me and got up in my lap and hasn't left. And hasn't left. Been my dog ever since. The dog I didn't want. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah, you know because you're flapping your tail over there. I know. But, all right, so these things were bred to keep their children warm. They were bred to run long miles. And it's one of the oldest breeds. When you test them genetically, they are one of the oldest breeds. They were one of the breeds with the actual closest DNA to live wild wolves. Of all the dog breeds out there, these breeds have the closest DNA to live wolves. And so they believe this is one of the oldest breeds out there. The Chukchi people don't have a name for this breed. These were actually, the name actually comes from kind of a slur of it being an Eskimo dog. It was brought to Alaska during the gold rush, and because it could pull sleds during the gold rush, and the people called it an Eskimo dog. It was a Husky Eskimo dog, and the name kind of stuck, but it wasn't really the official name for the dog, because the tribe, the Chukchi people, just called it a dog. All of the other dogs they either call house dogs, or they call them weak dogs, or they call them lazy dogs, but they don't have a special word for their dog, because in their minds theirs is, true dog. In their language, in their culture, theirs is true dog. And so they don't have a word for it. It wasn't until the 1930s that, let's see here, the watercolor got away from me early on. It wasn't until the 1930s that the AKC even recognized the breed, and they were the first to do so around the world. They were the first to recognize the Huskies as a breed, even though the breed had been around for thousands of years. Now, the AKC, how are we doing on time? We've got about 5 more minutes. The AKC, the problem with them is they are so focused on appearance and purebredness that they have caused some inbreeding. The people selling these things have bred them more for the looks, have started breeding them more for the looks than for their functionality. And so the Huskies that you buy through the AKC, they're not actually top of the breed. They might be very expensive, but they are bred for looks. They are not bred for their temperament. They're not bred for their ability to pull sleds. They're not bred for their warmth, their ability to stay warm. They're not bred for their love of family. They are bred specifically so that they will look like Huskies and maybe fit in your house, which is not what they were originally bred for. The CKC in Canada, they're a little more interested in the functionality of the dog. They want the dog to be more when you register a dog with them, they want the dog to be more what it was meant to do. And so they're a little bit more interested in genetic diversity, making sure that the 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 dog stays true to the breed. So if you're going to buy one, you'll get a healthier dog if it's CKC registered and not AKC registered. It can be both, but you want to make sure that it's CKC registered. I'm going to add a little bit of ochre sepia to this white background to bring out the white in this dog. Just a little bit, just enough to make that white really stand out. I'm not anti-AKC registered. I just don't think their policies, when they set their policies in place in the 1800s, I don't think they really thought about genetic diversity. I think they were more interested in saying, well, my dog is better than your dog. Because when they started doing it in the 1830s, it was mostly British breeds. They didn't register any of the they didn't register any of the working class dogs. Not blue heelers, not the Australian blue heelers, not the Huskies, not the Malamutes. The Malamutes are same type of dog, similar in appearance, but bigger. Their breed was designed to pull great big heavy loads. These dogs weren't meant to pull heavy loads. They were meant to pull light sleds, and they do it very well. They were really brought to the world's attention during the was it 1927 when Nome had the outbreak there, that they had to have the medication brought up there, and they went 290 miles with dogs to get the medication to them. Subtle hint, they went 200, I think it was 290 miles. And Togo, the dog, pulled the sled for 260 miles. Fox, the dog, died during the trail, but didn't stop, ran himself to death, taking this medication. It wasn't polio. Taking this medication to them. And then Balto actually pulled the sled into Maine and got all the accolades. There's still a statue for Balto in New York. So I was fine until I got here. Something went wrong here, but I can live with it because it's a Saturday morning sketch. I think I got lost in my story. That nose should have been a whole lot longer. I got lost in my story. Anyway, I don't even remember where I was going with that. Balto got all the accolades, but Togo is the one that took the sled for the furthest length, and got all the should have got at least as much praise. I don't even think I turned my microphone on. Well, we'll find out here in a minute. I may not have ever turned that microphone on. Let's see. Eject. Safely eject. But that brought them to the world's attention, and that's what got them the AKC. That's what brought them to the attention of the AKC. It's the mic. Yeah, it's a different mic. That's what got them the attention from the AKC and the other world organizations, was that run into Nome, Alaska, and the fact that they saved all the people that were sick. So there is, from my perspective, the sketch of the morning. Sometimes it's more fun to talk about them. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. the little girl has pulled me an egg for tomorrow. Let's see what it is real quick. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. Uh-oh. That's the cow from yesterday that didn't get put away. Did she not pull me an egg before she left? I had an egg sitting there. I thought that she had already pulled it. Oh no. Luckily, I'm wearing pants. Usually on Saturdays, we play the game, Is He Wearing Pants? Because it's Saturday, I don't have to go anywhere. So we play the game, Is He Wearing Pants? All right, we got a 50s era zombie. I have a 50s era zombie for tomorrow. So that is what we're going to do tomorrow. If you're watching this on Sunday, July 20th, and it's before 5:30 in the morning, then this is what we're about to draw. So stick around, we're getting ready to start. You're watching the trailer. But for the rest of us, I'm going to put this back away. And thank you guys so much for joining me. You know, I look forward to it every morning. This is my favorite time of day when I get to come down and I get to art with my besties. I jump out of bed and I run downstairs and I get to art with my besties. We talk about what we're doing. We share some insight and some stories with each other, and then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because that means the stream is caught up with the lag, or the lag is caught up with the stream, and I won't get cut off mid-sentence. Nobody likes it when you're